Yousef Alhelou, a Palestinian British journalist and filmmaker who has covered Israel's wars in Gaza extensively. Thank you so much for joining us. Yousef, to start, now I know you have family currently living in Gaza and you've already lost family members in this war. Could you start by explaining to our audience how this war has affected you and your family directly?
Well, since day one, we anticipated Israel's fierce retaliation. It affected me in the sense that I lost immediate family members, my sister and 7 of her children, nieces, and nephews, in addition to dozens of my cousins and relatives. And also, I lost journalist colleagues, I lost neighbors, I lost people that they know, I lost their livelihoods, I lost the memory of me in the alleyways and streets of Gaza. Now, Gaza has been destroyed since the beginning of this genocide and ethnic cleansing. We have been praying for our family members to be safe. And actually, Michael, every day they wake up unharmed is a miracle for us. And we hope this genocide will end very soon to save lives, because it's useless. It's lethal. There's no point of continuing this genocide just for the purpose of killing civilians and breaking the will and morale and steadfastness of the Palestinian people in Gaza.
We were speaking earlier, and you said that I think it was your brother and your mother are still in the north of Gaza, in Gaza City. And I was initially surprised because I'd assumed that everyone had left northern Gaza. When we report it, it's often as if, people have left northern Gaza, that's being destroyed, but they're also being bombed where they move to the south. You said, no, lots of people are still in northern Gaza. I saw 300,000 people, according to UNRWA, so the UN refugee agency. Could you talk about that? What are you hearing from your family members who are still in northern Gaza? Because as I say, it's often talked about, as if it's been abandoned, but there are lots of people still there.
Yes, I would assume approximately 500,000 people still live in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, mainly Gaza City, Jabalia, Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun. And I saw a video myself of a market that was set up, and it was hustling and bustling with people trading, selling, and buying. But there is a struggle in the sense of getting basic supplies such as food, drinking water. Obviously, there is no fuel. Life is paralyzed in the northern part of Gaza. And even though a number of aid trucks were allowed into the northern part of Gaza, people, it's like a tsunami of people, they rushed to welcome and receive this aid convoy. And a number of people were killed. They were shot at by Israeli occupation forces who are just south of Gaza City. People cannot afford to buy the food, even though if you have the money, you cannot find the required merchandise and goods. And people have to queue in long lines to get water. Water is unsuitable for human consumption. Obviously, there is no electricity, and people have to rely on wood to keep warm and cook. There is no cooking gas. And also the frequency, the signal is very bad. There is no internet. There is no communication lines. I had to wait for over a month until I managed to hear the voice of my mother and 2 of my brothers. So we were in the dark. And honestly, it's tragic that, we keep losing family members and loved ones. As I said, this genocide is useless. And Israel just wants to flex its muscles and transform Gaza into a testing ground. And we've seen all these kind of American dumb bombs, white phosphorus, and also the deployed killing drones laden with machine guns, and the open fire at people, even though those people are internally displaced in shelters, in schools. And let's not forget to mention the tens of thousands of people, even hundreds of thousands of people who are seeking shelter at United Nations schools and governmental schools, and they lack the basic supplies. It's overcrowded schools with lack of hygiene, spread of diseases already reported. So the situation is undescribable, and Israel wanted to level Gaza. This was their aim from the very beginning. They wanted to force Gazans to migrate. So the ethnic cleansing is ongoing. The internal displacement is ongoing. People keep moving from this place to this place. And what adds insult to injury, also the attacks on hospitals and also the attacks of cemeteries. Last night, cemetery in Khan Yunis in the southern part of the Gaza Strip was bulldozed and bodies were exhumed. Can you imagine the desecration of those dead bodies already? What's the purpose of that? So the suffering is ongoing. It's unbearable life, to be honest. It's very hard that people are surviving day after day.
Of course, our thoughts with you and your family. It sounds horrific. I mean, especially not being able to hear from them for months and not knowing, or for a month and not knowing what's going on. I wanted to ask you because you've described very articulately the tragedy of this war. I know before the war broke out, you were filming in Gaza, so you sort of have a strong idea of what Gaza was like before this assault. I was wondering if you could sort of talk about what is it that Israel have been destroying over the past 100 days?
From the very beginning, we expected Israel to attack the civil and civilian infrastructure, residential houses, in order to inflict heavy damage to punish the population. What's happening in Gaza is a collective punishment. Because some Israelis, they say that, well, you deserve to die because you elected Hamas, and everybody is involved uh, for what happened on the 7th of October. And the children of Gaza, children of darkness. And you guys, even the journalists are being described. We are being described that we are mouthpiece of Hamas. How on earth that this baseless accusation? I mean, the justifications of Israel continues unabated. We've seen the propaganda and the fake videos and attempts to silence Palestinian voices, and also to demonize and dehumanize Palestinians. Because remember, if you would like to, as an occupying power, Israel portrays itself as the victim. Obviously, the whole world knows that Palestinians are the victims and Israel is the victimizer. And as an occupying power, Israel obliged under international law to protect the civilian population it is controlling. But we've seen, over 24,000 Palestinians, including 11,000 children, have been killed so far, in addition to 65,000 injured, many of whom lost their limbs, children amputated, and so on. And Gaza is the world's largest open-air prison. Actually, I prefer to call it a concentration camp. So I went to film those places across the Gaza Strip to show the world that Gaza, although it has been besieged for the past 17 years, the Palestinians of Gaza managed to beautify this siege and decorate this siege, the Gaza Strip, I mean, because Israel has been controlling what goes in, what goes out, and controls the frequency, controls the exports, imports into Gaza, controls who can cross to the West Bank or cross to occupy Jerusalem. It controls the sky of Gaza, the frequency, it controls the water, the goods, everything. So Israel practically is the occupying power. It withdrew its forces physically in the year 2005, but it has redeployed its forces, and it has been digitally occupying Gaza from a distance. I managed to visit all those historical sites, landmarks, amusement parks, resorts, and actually I enjoyed, filming those attractions. And those footage that I managed to film, it's a treasure. I'm working on a documentary film in order to maintain the legacy of Gaza for generations to come. And hopefully you will be able to see this documentary film soon. And by the way, I shared a reel of a sense of those nice footage, including footage from the air, and a number of comments that I received from some anti-Palestinians, I assume Zionists. They say, how on earth that you keep, claiming that Gaza has been a prison? Well, my reply is obvious. Yes, we are creative. We were under siege, but we had to go on. We had to continue our lives. We had to adapt. We managed to decorate this prison. It doesn't mean that a siege doesn't mean starvation or poverty or unemployment. It means the deprivation of the freedom of movement. Why we Palestinians, we don't have an airport or a seaport? Why we have to suffer? Why we have to many, complications when we travel to the outside world? This is what we mean by the siege. The lack of movement of the freedom of movement has been denied to us. The Gazans are banned for life from going to the West Bank and Jerusalem. I visited so many countries around the world as a British citizen, as Palestinian, even passport holder. But we are not allowed to go and visit the West Bank or Jerusalem. Why is that?
Yousef, finally, I know that you're a British citizen and you are struggling to get your Palestinian family members out of Gaza and potentially to the UK. I mean, could you talk about that?
We are about 350 British Palestinians from Gaza in the UK. We have been advocating and pushing the UK government to come up with a scheme, a humanitarian visa scheme, similar to the Ukrainian scheme that was set up to welcome the refugees from Ukraine. Of course, that was a very noble thing to do. But also, we British Palestinians, we feel that we are neglected. We are not given the attention. We are worried about the fate and safety of our family members who are facing the hardships. You know, my parents, they need medical attention and medicine, and this medicine is not available. It's not about leaving Gaza. Obviously, Israel wants the people of Gaza to leave in order to ethnically cleanse the population, but we are worried about their daily life, even if they just leave temporary, just to make sure that they are safe. So we sent a letter to David Cameron's office, and we detailed the request, and also we said that the complexities are there between Palestine and Ukraine. But it's not fair that we are neglected. I would like to highlight here the double standard policy and the hypocrisy. Canada already approved the request of Canadian Palestinians from Gaza, and it has started to grant visas, family visas on grounds of humanitarian assistance as a goodwill gesture. Because at the end of the day, we are worried and we want our family members to be safe. This is the whole point from, doing a petition. We sent emails to MPs. We are, doing a campaign on X and Instagram. And I mentioned this many times of a number of TV channels. But it seems that, our requests are met with, silence on part of the Home Office and part of the Foreign Office, David Cameron himself. So we would like to feel that, the British government cares about us as a British citizens.
Yousef Alhelou, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And of course, just to reiterate, solidarity and good luck to you and your family and what you're experiencing.
Thank you, Michael.